You know how some 125s have a hard life? Well, this one, my friends, is no exception. Let me show you around. We've got no rear light, no rear indicators, a cracked number plate that I've taken off, no number plate lights, and no rear bodywork. We've got a chain and sprocket that has definitely done more wheelies than Cole Fogarty on race day. We've got a worn out front tyre, and the front brake pads are pretty much down to nothing. Looking at this fork leg, it looks like the fork oil seal is probably leaking on this side as well. And up on the front here, we've got missing headlight cowling, bent handlebars, smashed headlight switch, smashed up clutch lever, wrong clutch cable, and a plethora of cable ties holding things together. We've still got all the bearings and stuff to check, so there could be more to come. As you can see, most of the bodywork is missing, so if you know a decent place to get bodywork for these, this is a Wr125X 2014. If you know a decent place to get bodywork for one of these, drop it in the comments below. What we're going to do, this belongs to a friend of mine. We've got to get it through its MOT. We've got to get it roadworthy and through its MOT, I should say. Most of the bits have arrived. I'm going to try and do it in two parts. I'm Dino. This is Patch's Repair Shop. Let's crack on, shall we? I think we'll start by the front end, guys. Or at the front end, I should say. We've got a new set of bars. Got a new clutch perch, got a new clutch cable, got a new headlight switch. Well, some new to us. Keep the costs down. So make note of the arrows, which way these should be pointing. These are luckily not C's because they are steel bolts into aluminium. Someone had over tightened that Phillips. Don't panic, it's come undone. So I don't know if you guys can see that in there. There's a little steel pin there that's been pushed to one side. That steel pin should poke up above that semicircle and allow this to locate into the handlebars properly, but it's just been clamped, tightened down over it, which has snapped that pin to one side. Hence the tape on the bars to stop the housing moving. So up the top here, we've got the clutch cable coming into its perch, and we've got this adjuster here, which is thankfully not seized, and this has got slots in it. And hopefully what we can do is line the slots up and pop the cable out. Now this cable, it seems like the wrong one, and it's frayed as well down on the engine side. So we'll pop a new clutch cable in. There we go. See, that's a real shame because these Renthal bars have actually got the hole where the switch pack should fit, so the dowel pin in the switch pack has missed the hole and then bent itself over, which is a shame. Anyway, that's the handlebars off. Next we're going to pop the headlight out, which has been cable tied up the top here. So we're going to get rid of the cable ties, and it's got two rubber grommets that fit over two pins down here. So we're just going to whip the headlight out for a minute. Disconnect the side light bulb. So we've got to change the switch pack on the left hand side, so now's a good opportunity to do that while we can get to a bit more of the wiring. So to get to the wiring, I'm going to have to take off some of this broken plastic here. If you guys can see, maybe not. Oh, they just don't, it's just a little bit awkward to get to. So if I just pull those out there, these are the plugs for the left hand switches. So let's see if we can get to these. God, they've got all that space on the loom and they've put the plugs in the most awkward space. Because it's all missing and broken, it's hard to tell what is actually meant to be where. But is that part of the front headlight panel? Or is it it's part of this panel, isn't it? So we'll have to take this panel off and we'll have to source one of these. It's all broken here on the left hand side. So it's got four 10mm bolts going into the bottom yoke, holding the mudguard on. So I'm just whipping those off. I know you guys can't see it. If you're doing this yourself, it's nice and straightforward. They're really accessible from underneath. Right, so one front mudguard off. See if you guys can see it. There you go. So let's move you here, that'll be easier, won't it? So one front mudguard. This bit's broken. Captive spinning in the bottom there. So I've been looking at sets that include a new front mudguard, so we just have to find a new one of these. Done. So I had a broken bolt in there, so I've managed to get that one out. and we'll run a tap through there. So to make my life easier for the minute, I'm going to cut the old loom off for the switch pack. Pull that out, there's our old switch pack. That's a bin job. While we're dealing with things coming up to the handlebars, let's get this clutch cable off. So there's two adjusters here, 12 mils. They went through this bracket here, allowed me to undo it, gave me the slack I needed to remove it from the top. So I'm just going to pull it through, because you know we've already undone it from the handlebars. So you can see, well, no you can't, there you can. There's our clutch cable, and the physical cable is frayed as well. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's like a little door that opens up and allows the cable to pass through the attachment for the clutch cable to the engine. So nice and simple. So the front indicators, guys, these are just toast. They're just loose and rotten and everything. So look, that one's just pulled right off. So let's get these off and get some on order, which are just pulling out because they're not the right size for the holes. So I think what the plan will be today, guys, is get the broken bits off, get a list together, get some degreaser on it, hit it with a jet wash, start to get it cleaned up a bit while it's all in bits. So I know I need some fork oil seals. I need to get those ordered up. I need some Bodywork. You. So if you're taking the seat off, it's just 2 6mm, which when you don't have any bodywork are really easy to access. On this side, up here I can see where somebody's joined it all together. And then the indicators are in here, still on their standard plugs, sort of. Well, one's just popped out of the clip anyway, look, so we'll have to redo that. That should mean that we can pull all of this through. Get the tail not so tidy out. So round at the front here we've got a bit more broken bodywork. 4mm Allen keys. 4 and 5s actually. And then this looks like the remnants of the side panels here. Fuel cap off, and then this panel is actually okay. These are the remnants of the outer tank panels, if you like, so they'll need unscrewing from there. Airbox has got no bolts in it. so we'll have to stick some new bolts in the airbox. Well, it's got one bolt, it's not all the way home and it's tight, so that's probably been cross-threaded. So just before we start cleaning, guys, I thought I would just check out any play. You guys probably can't see that, but that is movement in the rear wheel bearing. Probably to see it more exaggerated up here. So we'll have to have a look at, or probably replace the rear wheel bearings. Let's also just get rid of this chain while we're at it, because we're gonna replace it all. It's completely and utterly knackered. So let's just cut through this. Forgot to mention that this is bent and cracked, and so is the gear lever, so I've already got new ones of those to put on. Right, so if you're attempting this at home, guys, I've got it up on my stand, so you need the back wheel off the floor. I've already cut the chain off last week. Link to the video somewhere in the screen now. You'll need a 24mm socket for the nut on the spindle, and the spindle itself on the other side is a 27mm. I've said it before and I've said it again, don't do this like me, undo the tight stuff with somebody else. Oh, look at that. Obviously it's loose, I could have undone it with my fingers. That's not a good sign, is it? So we'll have to make sure that that is torqued up properly when it goes back together. So in this instance, doesn't matter that it was on the stand. So nut off, there's a little adjusting plate there. Everything needs a bit of a clean. And then hopefully that's not seized. There we go. Happy days. There is a bit of grease on this spindle. That's one rear wheel out. Let's get some degreaser on under here while we can see a bit more, and then go and change that sprocket and bearings. I know we done this at the end of the last video, if I can see a little bit more now. Right, we've got to get the old sprocket off and the old bearings out. It's a 14mm on the front here, and it's a 12mm on the back. If you're doing this at home, yours could be different if hardware has been changed over the years. They were definitely done up. So let's just crack all of these off. That should be one sprocket off. So, new sprocket, excellent, that fits, that's correct. 53 teeth, which is what the old one was. So we're all good there. So, now the sprocket's off, basically want to get the bearings and seals out so I can clean everything up, and then we can start putting it back together. Handy little seal puller, just hooks under there. Any sort of hook or an old screwdriver, just be careful as you're doing it. We can just pop that seal out. So we got to get that bearing out, and I think this wheel has 3 bearings in it. So round to this side we've got the little spacer that just pops out, and then one seal. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's all pretty manky in there. So let me show you how I'm going to get this bearing out, guys. I started off by popping off the little outer rubber cover on the bearing. It's absolutely, it's as dry as a desert in there. There's no grease in there. No wonder they're playing up. So what I did then is, you've got your inner and outer race of the bearings, and then you've got your bearings which are on like a track, if that makes sense. I just used a very small punch that I thought I had here. I haven't. I just knocked the inner bearings out basically. They're really soft, it won't take a lot. Once you've done that, you can use a little tool like this, which has got like half a ball on the end. You pop that in there and turn it, and that is going to grab the inner and outer race of the bearing. Okay, so if you haven't got one of these sets, it's well worth getting yourself one. They're really cheap, like 20 quid you can get one of these sets for. You know, and if it gets you out of trouble once, then it's worth it, isn't it? The other option is to use a large steel bar, put the wheel against something solid, and knock it through from the other side. That's not always the easiest way to do it though, and you may end up damaging the wheel. So this way is often the better way, as I fiddle around with it. So I need to find something solid to fit across there so that we got something to push against and pull the bearing up, if that makes sense. So let me find something. So we're all set up and ready to press out. I've put a bit of pressure on it. It's tight. Let me give you a little tip, like the inside of the hub here where you're about to pull the bearing through, give it a clean out first so that you're not dragging all the muck through. You're always going to drag a bit of muck through, but try and make life a little bit easier for you. This does feel like it needs a little bit of heat, so just going to warm it up a little bit. It's cold in general today as well. Let's give it a little helping hand. If you're heating up aluminium like this, you don't want to turn it to a puddle of metal. So if you are concerned about heating up aluminium, use a matchstick, rub the matchstick on the aluminium, you know, like the bit you strike, and then when that disappears or turns black, if my memory serves me correctly, you know to stop heating up the aluminium. I think that's right. If it's not, I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments. It's been a little while. There we go. Little bit of heat, always your friend. So there it is, guys, one knackered bearing, and you can see where I just punched out either side to put the little tool in and then pull it out. So that's one bearing out. We've got another one on this side, so double bearings on this side, one on the other side. So I'm going to crack on and get those out, and then I'll bring you guys back in. So that's all three bearings out, guys, and they are just absolutely minging. The last two took a little bit of persuasion and quite a bit of heat, but they're all out. So that's your old dust covers off of the bearings. They're the two seals, and then over here we've got some nice new bearings and nice new seals to go in. So you know, investing in something like that bearing puller for like 20 quid probably on Amazon or something, I'll see if I can find a link and put it below, is worth, you know, worth its weight in gold, even if you use it once just to get you out of trouble. But yeah, good. Right, next step, we're going to clean all the wheel up so that we can build it back up with all the new bearings and sprocket. So we've had a good clean up of the wheel as well, guys. As you can see, that looks only about 1,000,000 times better. So what we're going to do now is pop our new bearings in. Do not let me forget to put that bit in the middle, as you will see in a minute. So let's just pop it in there now. I don't need to, but then when I turn it over, it will move and it will remind me. So first thing you need to check, guys, if you've got, you know, you're always going to have two bearings, for example, is check that the bearings are the same and that the spindle isn't different sizes at each end. These are all 6004RS bearings, so they can all go in, you know, in any orientation you want. So just to help life along a little bit, I've cleaned out in the middle. You don't, these are a sealed bearing, you don't need to grease them, but just to help us out a little bit. So I'm using a bearing driver and I'm using one of the anvils the other way round, so because this has got to be driven all the way down inside here. So where's my boshing stick? So that's one, and then directly on top we got another one. Last thing we've got to do is pop the new oil seal in. So a little bit of grease on the seal as well. Shouldn't need to bash the hell out of this too much. And that is the new oil sealing. So these are the spacers that go in when we're putting the wheel back together. No need to put them in now. Let's just check that, I don't know which one goes which side, but let's just check they both fit, and they do. Yeah, we knew it'd remind us when it fell out. There we go. Let's pop that back in. So that's the last bearing. Again, let's get a new seal in. And that's the new sealing. All the bearings are turning. Lovely. Next job. Right. Let's get our new sprocket on. Haven't got any new hardware for this, which is unfortunate. There's nothing wrong with these ones, they're just a bit manky. These are 35 Newton meters. Splendid. So new rear sprocket, 3 new wheel bearings, new seals in the end, wheel cleaned up apart from the spokes, still looks a hell of a lot better. Let's get it back on the bike, shall we? So before we go ahead and pop the rear wheel in, I've had a good clean up. It really needs to come off and have a repaint, but again, how far do you go? You know, it's just a little commuter bike, isn't it? But if it's cleaned and greased up and we're happy. So first thing we're going to do is I've gone ahead and put some new nuts and washers on this adjuster. This has to fit in the end of the swing arm like this, so we're going to whack a load of grease on here. Pop that in there, and for the minute we'll keep the adjusters wound right off until we put the new chain on and adjust it up. We've got to pop these spacers in. I think this one's for this side, and this one just pops in this side. So I've already greased the seals up. Bloody stone in there. It's nice. It's a problem with working on a gravel driveway. So at the same time, we're going to pop the rear caliper over. We're somewhere close so we can get the spindle in. So got to pop the little plates onto the spindle before you pop it through. Just going to pop some grease onto the spindle. Spindle through, adjustment plate on, or locking plate, I don't know what you call it, nut on. There we go, and we've got the movement in the rear wheel still because we got to get the chain on, so we'll push that all the way forward. So next job, guys, is the front sprocket, and while we're here we can also change the bent gear lever and the bent footrest, hopefully. So got this guard here, you got a 10mm at the top, an 8mm at the bottom, so that obviously needs a clean up. And then we got the sprocket inside here, so I'm just gonna, geez, look at that. So, God, Jesus, that is tight. Oh. So it's in gear, 2 little 8mm, so tight that I was able to turn the engine over. So 2 8mm, locking plate, should then slide off the splines. There we go. And then one absolutely knackered front sprocket. See the shape of the gears, or the teeth if you like. That's better. So we're on the gear lever now, guys. Little 5mm Allen key at the bottom. This gear lever's bent and cracked, so I've got another one to put back on. I mean, that bolt's tight and that's flopping around on there, so let's hope this isn't about to cause us a world of pain. Let's get this bolt out. And then the next bit will be this bent side stand, but we have got a switch here, a couple of cable ties to get rid of. Let's see where this loom goes. The plug's just here. So we need to reuse this switch, so we need to cut the cable ties and get what looks like a 14mm to undo that. So that's the foot peg and side stand off. I'm going to give this lot a good degrease and rinse off while I'm here, just because it's horrible. Right, let's get all this switched over. Got two tiny little, what look like 3mm Allen keys. We just need this side stand switch off of this one and the side stand as well. So, one side stand switch. Now the side stand. So you got like if you guys can see that, you can't, there we go. So I put the side stand up if you like, and then that puts gives us a bit of slack on the spring, and then this bit here pushes up over there. Probably going to smack myself in the face. There we go, and then that's the spring off. And then we got one, whew, that's a bit worn as well. So we're going to undo this, whatever that is. So 17mm on here, so we'll pop this in the vise. And oh. So let me show you what's going on here, guys. So this is where the side stand was bolted in. The 17mm nut came off, but the bolt was stuck in the middle and I had to give it a bit of a hard time to get it out. Now, in the middle of this, because this is like a constantly pivoting point, is that the right way to put it? A constantly pivoting point. Anyway, you get what I mean. Yeah. That's flopping around like a pencil in a bucket. So that's why the side stand felt all horrible. If you have a look at the one that's going back on, there's no play. The steel bush in the middle is nice and firm. So we can reuse the bolt. We're going to just clean this bolt up a bit and give the side stand a bit of a clean up, and then we'll bring it back in and we'll whack it back together. Right, so we're giving the side stand a clean up and the bolt a bit of a clean up. So we're just going to put some new grease on the bolt. Side stand over there. And then if I can get it to line up, new bolt through there. One washer. And one nut. Right, I'm going to go out of shot and tighten that up quickly. So you should be able to tighten this right up really tight and it still move, yeah, and that's the idea of it. So that's that on there. So let's get our spring back on. So the spring goes over there, and then let's see if we can do this without losing a eye. No, I can't is the answer to my question. There we go. So that's on there. We've got a couple of Allen key bolts that came in the new foot peg. So we just got a pop our side stand switch on. That's that built up. You can see, can you see the side stand switch working there? Pull it back off again. Beautiful. Right, let's get it all back on the bike, shall we? Right, so we've had a little bit of a clean up. It's not great, but it's better. It's a start. So just check this new sprocket against the old one. So that's all good. So let's see if we can get that on here. Why is that? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so instantly no flopping around like the old one was. And we got the little locking plate that goes over the splines, turns in the gap to stop it coming off. And then we've got our two little 8mm bolts. So I've got a new chain here, so nice new chain. First thing I'm going to do, you've seen me doing lots of Marva bike videos, apart from the time I forgot, is I'm going to measure this up against the old chain to make sure it's the correct length and see if we've got to cut it down first. So I don't know how well you can see that, guys, but there's a roller here, or it's meant to be a roller. There's one up here as well, which is rolling. This one isn't, so I haven't got a new one to put on, but I'm just going to take it off and see if I can clean it up a bit and get it moving. So there you go, you can, I mean, look, it's just covered in crud. So I cleaned it all up and I've re-greased it. It doesn't seem to be a bearing in there. It might just spin around the bolt. If you know, guys, let me know. It's kind of what the top one feels like it just spins around the bolt. It's moving now anyway. So you've seen me do this before, guys. Now, because it isn't a very powerful bike, it has got a quick release link. No X-rings or O-rings or anything like that, I don't think. Because they, well, it hasn't, I know they hasn't. So it's gonna grease the new link up. And try and pop it through. That on there, and then as always, guys, the direction of the clip is in the direction of drive, so the chain is going to be pulling that way. So you want the open-ended end of the clip at the back, okay? Not at the front. And make a huge difference on a little 125. And that just clips into place, and that's done, and we can adjust the chain up now. So we've got to adjust the chain up, guys, and that is best done when the bike has got some weight on it, and it hasn't at the moment. So we're just going to nip these adjusters up. You just saw it grab the spindle and move the spindle there, so we know that's all the way home. Same on the other side, and we're going to make sure that on these rear plates there's lines on the swing arm, so the plate on both sides needs to be in the same place. So at the moment we are just literally on the third line. So we've done the same on the other side, got it to the same place. That way we know that the wheel is in line, the spindle's straight, and you're not all skew whiff everywhere. So I'm not going to do the lock nuts right up, just going to make sure they're on there, because we're obviously going to adjust it all up. Right, that is chain and sprocket, rear wheel bearings done, and everything sounds nice, like it's moving with some grease now, which is lovely. So we're going to torque this up, adjust the chain when it's back on the floor. We've got to put the cover over the front sprocket, and we've got to put the foot peg back on. So here's our foot peg. So one foot peg back on. Now we've got to get the wiring back through. Right, that's the side stand back on, tightened up, loom in, cable tied up, front cover over the sprocket next. Right, again, apologies guys, the sun's really bad. When you put this back in, make sure that you're not trapping any wires where they shouldn't be, like against the chain. So there is some little gaps for it to go in. So that looks good. Don't forget these were different sizes. There's a 10 at the top and an 8 at the bottom. So we'll put the gear lever on when we've found that. Right, before I take it off the ramp and we tighten the wheel up, what I wanted to do is, just while we're at the rear end, just see if we can get some new bolts in the airbox, because they're missing. So if you guys can just see that, there's 2 bolts in the airbox and they're not all the way home, and I don't think they're loose. I think there may be something more sinister going on, so I'm just gonna get some new bolts in the airbox. Yeah, so there's a shoulder on the bolt, and they tightened against the shoulder instead of against the head of the bolt. Right, that's better, that's got it. So front airbox, I'm hoping I can undo the rear tank mount and get to the front ones. Yeah, so These ones aren't tight because they're not very nice to get to. That's 2 of the correct bolts done. 2 of the other bolts are missing, so let's see if I can find something to pop in there. Right, so I just found a couple that will do the job. Right, that's the airbox nice and tight again, like it should be. So, last step for the day, guys, is these adjusters. So, we've got it off the ramp, put a little bit of weight on it, and you want to find the tightest part of the chain. And I don't know, I can kind of do it by feel now, but a lot of bikes have a measurement written on the swing arm, or you can Google a measurement. This one needs just a smidgen more. And I'm just past the 3rd line on the adjustment plate here. So I'm going to go over to the other side, I'm going to put it in the same place, and then we'll just move our locking nuts up, stop them coming undone. And that's that. I always like to give it a run around the block and then double check, but that feels good to me. Let's torque up this nut now. I'm going to go indoors and see if I can download a manual and check these torque settings, because Mr. Google is saying like just under 60 Newton meters. Doesn't feel enough to me. So we just tightened it up, and I'll double check the manual and we'll come back to that if we need to. Today we're going to be changing a set of fork oil seals in a conventional style set of forks. This is on our little Yamaha Wr125X project, so this is part 3 or 4, I can't remember now. So today we're going to be changing these fork oil seals. The process of this is pretty much the same on a lot of motorcycles really. The other type of fork that you got is an upside down style fork, which I can show you a set, so I've got a set of those off a bike at the moment, so I'll show you those in a minute. But I wanted to talk you through just the individual components of a conventional set of forks as we go through. So this part here is what we refer to as the fork body or the fork slider. Okay, so this main part here. This part here, which is, or always should be, shiny and chromy a word? Who knows? So this shiny bit here is called the fork stanchion. These are all held in place up here by what is referred to as a top and bottom yoke or a triple clamp. I've never been quite sure why they call it a triple clamp, because there's only a top and a bottom part, i.e. 2, or is it because there's the steering stem and then 2 fork stanchions? I don't know that one. If you guys know, drop it in the comments below and we'll all learn something today. So I'm going to start by hopefully undoing a few of these, but not with the world's longest Allen key. Right, let's try again. So I'm going to try a slightly different approach today, and I'm going to take the fork slider off the bottom of the stanchion and leave the stanchion in the bike. Now this may be a slightly easier process if you're doing it yourselves at home, so something to consider maybe. Apologies, I'm not quite in shot, but it's not me you want to see, is it? So let's get those off, and let's just get everything free. This is holding the speedo cable in place. And there's also some black tape around it. That doesn't want to move, so I'm going to take the whole lot off together. This is the wiring loom for the Speedo, because it's a sensor, not a cable. So I'm also going to do the front tyre, the front brake pads, and hopefully start to get the handlebars back together on this little project today. We shall see how it goes. So you'll find on most bikes that there is a couple of pinch bolts, sometimes on one side, sometimes on both sides. This one's got two 6mm Allen keys. So we literally just crack those off. You can see the gap there, you probably can't see it from there, the gap there just opened up very slightly, very straightforward though. And then we can undo the front spindle, which on this particular bike is a 17mm. Now, because we're going to try this in a slightly different way, and I'm going to slide the fork body off of the stanchion this way, hopefully, I'm going to need to drain the oil, and to drain the oil there is what I think is a 6, maybe 8mm, feels like an 8mm Allen key underneath. So I'm going to undo this and I'm going to drain the oil out the bottom. If you're doing that off the bike, then you're going to have to hold the forks in place, so it's a little bit easier with the spindling. Right, although they've, you know, they're loose, I can turn them, they're not actually coming out, probably because there's something turning inside that we need to hold. So let's have a look up the top. So on the top of the fork stanchion, guys, we've got the top yoke round here, which is this bit, and then we've got this 22mm bolt up the top. Now I'm going to attempt to undo it. Let's see what happens. Don't forget there's going to be some form of spring in here, so it's not just hydraulic, there's a spring in here as well. And you don't want to trip to the dentist, so be careful. Okay, so we just pop that cap off. There's an internal sleeve here, which I'm going to pop out, put somewhere clean. So on this side, guys, I'm going to do it the conventional way. I'm going to undo these 10mm and pop the whole fork out, the stanchion and the body, and we'll do it over on the bench. And then once I've ascertained what needs to be done on one, maybe we can do the other one with the stanchion in place and see how we get on. So let's undo these 10mm. So these are literally just clamping the fork stanchion in place. Make sure you mark these if you're concerned about the position in which they're going to go back into. So they should be undone enough. So let's pull this spindle out like that. And let's get this front wheel out of the way. So the next thing I'm going to do is hopefully just twist the stanchion. It's going to be fairly tight, it's not too bad though. And that will just drop down out of the yokes like that. Now, now that we've done that, I should probably be able to tip the fork upside down because we took the top cap off. The springs popped out. Let's get something to lay these components on. So pop the spring on there, and yeah, also the first thing that came out was this spacer, so that goes on top. So there's no tension in there anymore. There's some nasty coloured looking stuff coming out. So I'm just working the fork up and down to make sure that I've got all of the oil out. So now we're up on the bench, guys. I had to get rid of that speedo cable, and we can have a little look and see what is going on, and probably make a big mess at the same time. So at this end, let me move you guys so you can potentially see. Be handy, wouldn't it? Up this end, guys, we've got an 8mm Allen key in the bottom, which ideally would have been the place where we wanted to undo it while it was on the bike and let it all drain out. But there's nothing wrong with doing it the way that we done it. So it's already loose. What it's not doing is actually coming undone. So there's obviously something inside that I need to see. Right, I'm not going to hide the fact from you guys that I'm obviously missing something, so I'm just going to pop the old dust cover out. So this is not the actual seal, and I often hear people refer to this as the fork seal. This is just a dust cover, but it is the bit that you see, and it is rubber, but the actual seal is inside. So we'll pull the old dust cover off, and we'll just have a look and see if we've got, yeah, so I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me make it so that you guys can see. Not only is it a bit manky, there's also a clip. Where can you see it? Just there. There's a clip inside that is actually moving despite all the rust. So we'll pop that clip out. So that's the spring clip that was sitting inside. So you can just use a pick like that or a flat blade screwdriver. So, and that will be able to pop it out. And then the seal is already falling apart. So that's the spring off the seal. And it is really manky in there, so I want to try and clean all of that out before we do anything else, because you don't want that dropping inside the fork and then having to clean it out of the fork body. So I'll give that a good clean out now, get all that out. Right, so apologies guys, I sort of started to crack on then because I couldn't get this undone and it was giving me the ump. So this 8mm Allen key that's just the shelf of death falling apart around me. This 8mm Allen key bolt is holding the dampener rod inside the fork body. You can't do this job unless you get this out. Now this cracked off and undid, but then the fork body started moving inside. So if you've got a battery gun, in my case it's a 3/8 drive Milwaukee battery ratchet, so I held the fork up by its stanchion and started to undo it and started to sort of jiggle and put a bit of force on the stanchion, so the body was dropping down and putting a bit of weight into different places, and then as you can see it's come undone. Now we've got two open ends, so now it's going to make a big mess everywhere. So I'm going to go back over to the oil tray and or maybe not, drain that out. Okay guys, so let's give you a little bit of a breakdown as what has actually just happened here. So this 8mm Allen key bolt was in the bottom of the fork body like that. That screws into this, which is called the dampener, so that screws into the bottom of there. As I undone it in there, the dampener started to turn, which means I couldn't get it right out. So I was holding the chrome part of the stanchion up in the air with my battery ratchet on the end until it whizzed it out. Okay, luckily it's got quite a fine thread on there, or a very fine thread actually, which in this situation will make life a little bit easier. What you can see here, this really manky looking bitlet, that's the fork oil seal that's leaking. So we're going to pull that off like that, and then we're left with a washer here and this sleeve here. So we're going to pull them off as well because I want to give everything a good clean up. Lay it out in order. This is a messy job, by the way, as you've probably gathered. Now this fork leg is in the places where it needs to be in good condition. It is in good condition. Up by the yokes, by the triple clamp, it's not great. So what I mean by that is, if this is, obviously if it's bent, it's a bin job, if it's been in an accident or something. So this bit here, if it's got any pitting in it, if it started to corrode, the seal is never going to seal against it because the oil will be able to go in the pitting, get past the seal. So this one looks nice. I'm just going to continue to give it all a bit of a clean up. And then we've got the fork leg itself, which for some reason has got a load of black tape around. So I'm going to investigate, because that doesn't need to be there. Probably find that the clamp for the Speedo was so there's a small spring and a this sort of nylon plasticky bit sits in the bottom of the fork leg, so we'll have to give all of this a clean up as well. Right, so I'm going to have a tidy up of all the messy oily bits, give this fork leg a clean with the degreaser, and bring you guys back in. Right, so everything's had a good clean up and we're laid out in the order that we need to go back in. I've even, well, not even, I've cleaned out inside here because you don't want the seal and the clip being pushed back into all that muck and horribleness that was there. So new dust seal for the top, the new main seal, which ultimately is the one that was gone. Okay, so this is why we're changing it, because the oil was coming past here and you could see like a tide mark of oil on the fork oil seal, that will fail an MOT in the UK, so that's why we're doing it. So let's get this lot back together, shall we? So let's start by getting a few of these bits back onto the stanchion. So we've got the sleeve first, then this washer, and then we've got the oil seal. Now when we're pushing the oil seal on, you don't want to turn the O-ring, sorry, the rubber seal the wrong way round, so you don't want to invert this lip. Okay, so you need to make sure you get it on there. So I've used a little bit of silicone spray, which you may or may not be able to see on here, so we can look at it upside down and make sure the seal hasn't inverted, and then we can very, very gently just pull it down the stanchion where it needs to be. Okay, so we'll leave that there. Oh, smashing the camera now. So I'm going to pop these onto here, onto the bottom of the dampener, or damper I should say. And then we're going to pop the fork stanchion back into there, and I'm just going to pop this bolt into the bottom. Then I've got my seal here, which is nice, and it's got lots of silicone spray on it, so that should pop right down into there. Now you can use, and I'll see if I've got something, you can get like a slider that goes over there that you just knock the fork seal in with. Now I don't have one of those, I need to get a set of those. So it'd go over there, and it's a sleeve, and it bangs against that seal and knocks it down. So I need to find something else to do that job. Right, I had to adapt and overcome. This is a bearing driver that used to fit over there. It no longer does. So I quickly popped it in my lathe, bored it out, so turned it out so it fits over the fork stanchion down onto the seal, and then I was able to get a big bit of bar over there and knock the seal in nice and square. So now we're ready to put the clip in. Now fully appreciate that you might not have spare bearing seal drivers laying around, and you might not have a lathe to be able to turn the center out. I've just had a look, because I've also just ordered one, a universal set for driving the seal down the fork stanchion and into the body is $16.99 on eBay. I'll put a link below. Okay, so well worth the money, because that's, you know, just taking an hour out of my day to make something up. But we adapted and overcome, and we are ready to continue. So hopefully you guys can see that. So we're gonna just pop that clip back in, just use a little pick or something, and because we've cleaned it all out, it's just clipped nicely back into place. Just make double sure that it's gone all the way home where it should be, which this one has. Excellent. So the next step is our dust cover. So we're going to pop that over, and then the dust cover, literally we've got some silicone spray in there already, so I should just be able to push that straight over. a little bit tight at the end, but I can still do it with my hands, so that's nice. So that's the new dust cover in there as well. Then we've got this stanchion protector that has to go on last, and that goes, where does that go? That goes like that. Good. Okay, that's one done. So let's get it back on the bike, shall we? Oh, forgot to say, I've already tightened the 8mm Allen key up in the bottom when I was putting the dampener and everything in. So a little bit tricky to film when you're trying to line everything up and get it back in there, but it is very self-explanatory. So we're going to, before we put the oil in, we're just going to put the fork back into the triple clamp. And that lines up with the top there. You can actually see where it was before. So we're just going to nip these triple clamp bolts up, which are 27 Newton meters. So the next thing we're going to do is extend the fork all the way down and pop some oil in. So we're going to start popping the components back inside. So we've got the spring, and then we've got this washer which goes on top of the spring, and then we've got this sleeve that pops in the top like that. Obviously we've got the top cap which then goes over there, but we need to pop some oil in first. So a couple of ways to do your fork oil, guys, which is do it by volume or do it by oil level with the fork body all the way up and the spring out. I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments. I wouldn't mind doing a little bit more research on this one myself, and I will do before we rebuild the upside down forks that we need to rebuild for our cafe racer build. So for this I'm using a Silcoline RSF10 suspension fluid. So that's in there, and the next thing I'm going to do is pop the cap back on because we don't want any muck falling in there. So that's one side done. So I don't think you need to see me do the other side, it's exactly the same. So I'm going to crack on with the other side and then bring you guys back in. I'll just quickly bring you back in, guys, because there is a couple of bits different on this side. The brake flexi hose runs down the front of the fork leg, and that's got a couple of small 5mm Allen keys in. But more importantly, the brake caliper. I'm going to take the brake caliper right off so that I can give it a good clean up, and I've got some new front brake pads for it because they are knackered. And I'm actually going to take the brake flexi hose right off. So I've clamped the brake flexi hose at the top so that we don't lose too much fluid. I'm going to change all of the brake fluids anyway. So I've got a 14mm banjo bolt here. The best time to undo it is now, while it's still on the fork leg. There's going to be a couple of copper washers on it, Try not to drop them in the oil. I'm going to replace them anyway, but just in case, we'll pop that banjo bolt back in there. Get that flexi hose right out the way. And then a couple of caliper mounting bolts here. Nearly dropped it in the oil. So, one diddy little front caliper, so pads have had it, sticking on the pins as well, so we'll have a look at that in a second. We'll get the forks done first, so I'll bring you back in when the fork leg's done. So that's the other side done, guys. Just the spring, the washer, the doohickey tube, plonk some oil in, top cap back on. Splendid. Right, that's those done. Let's go and have a look at the front caliper, shall we? Right, on with the caliper, guys. I've just given it a quick clean. I think the first problem is going to be... oh, not a problem. It came undone straight away. It's just like a little grub screw cap. And then inside there's a 5mm Allen key. So maybe that will be my problem. Nope, that's okay. Right, let's get it in the tray, shall we? So I've got new brake pads, but it looks pretty manky, and now I'm wondering if I might need a piston and seal kit, because when I was cleaning it I could see that the pistons didn't look too great. And you can, let's get rid of those because we've got new ones. So that's the top pin. And then we can just pop that carrier off, and you can see there just how minging it all is, and it's whether they'll clean up or not. Let's make sure the bleed nipple's moving. Uh-oh. Let's pop it in the vise. Okay, that was tight, but it came undone. Doesn't look blocked either. Got a clip there. We show that to the camera because that's more for me than you guys when I forget how it goes back together. So they are moving. They might clean up actually. We might get away with some seals because the seals do not look great. Look how minging it is. So let's get that soaking, shall we? Wonder if the missus is popping out. This has got dishwasher written all over it, isn't it? Right, let me get that soaking and get a caliper kit on order. We're actually inside today, back on the Wr125. It's a bit chilly, it's a bit of a bite in the wind, so we're inside. We've got the little log burner on, as usual. Excuse the mess. Too many projects on the go, and we're trying to get this one finalised and back to my friend, because then that will be this series complete. So last week you saw me rebuild the front forks, so we've got that done. Today we're going to get the handlebars built up and back on. There's some new to us handlebars, or they might be new, I can't remember. Anyway, we've got handlebars to put back on, some new levers, a new switch. Wouldn't mind getting the headlight and the front cowling back on. I've just rebuilt the caliper. That's going to go out in a separate video midweek, probably workshop Wednesday. So if you want to see a caliper rebuild video, there's one of those done coming out on Wednesday. The front wheel is at my dad's, having a new tyre. There was a problem with the inner tube, so just waiting on another inner tube coming, then the front end will be done and we can start putting some more stuff back together. So let's crack on with these handlebars, shall we, guys? Haven't even taken these out of the wrapper yet. So hopefully they're correct. What is that? So there's the handlebars. So I wonder what's in here. I've got a feeling. Aha! So if you've been watching the whole series, guys, we had a bent and cracked gear lever. I've been tearing my messy garage to bits looking for the one I've ordered. They obviously came off from the same breakers or wherever I got them off. And there's our gear lever, so we can pop that back on. That's good. I knew if I waited long enough, it would turn up while I was doing something else. That was my plan anyway. Right, so before you build any of your handlebars up, make sure they are the right diameter bars, because there are different diameter bars, and if you get it wrong, then they're either not going to fit, or if they're close, you might end up snapping the clamps that go over the top as you tighten it down. So these fit, these are nice, that's good. So the next thing that we've got to do is start to build these up and get them on the bike. Now, I suppose you kind of got two options. If everything's off the bike, you could build them up here, bolt them to the bike, and then route all your cables and wiring and everything. Most of my stuff is still on the bike, so let's do it on the bike, shall we? Right, just to help us out, I'm going to bolt the handlebars in place, otherwise it gets a bit fiddly. These top caps have got, let me show you, they've got an arrow on pointing forward, so we can't get the position wrong. I'm not going to do these up tight, we're going to torque them down, but for the minute I'm just going to nip them up. Try and get in looking somewhere central in the clamps. For the minute that will do. Like I said, we're going to torque them up, so we're just going to nip them up for a second. Just so that they don't move around. Beautiful. So, we'll start on the throttle side, guys, and we'll start to put this together. So I like to just like bolt it all up, get it mocked up, and then we can position it to where we want it. So this perch has a couple of 5mm Allen keys in it. Again, pay special attention to where all of your wires and your brake flexi hose and your throttle cable are going to go, because it's all going to make a big difference. You don't want to get in caught up. It's Mr. MOT man, he's not going to like it. Now this has a dowel pin missing, if you remember from part 1. If you can see in there should be a little steel dowel pin in there, which I've actually pulled out because it snapped off inside. It was just laying inside the switch pack, and eventually that's going to create a dead short and blow some fuses or worse. So I've got rid of that. It's not a big deal, would prefer it if it was there. So we're going to pop that on there. The throttle cable comes through the bottom of this like that, and then there is, or should be, it was missing when the bike arrived, there should be a small screw, looks like a bit of a set screw, not a self tapper, in the bottom there. So let's see if I've got a bit of hardware to fit that. Right, so found a bit of hardware for there, I had to cut it down, so that's in there nice and tight now. So we've got to put this on for our throttle cable. and then we've got to get that located where it needs to be. With the wires round the right way. I'm going to assume that little plastic spacer goes in there with it, like that. And then that does not feel very returny on your own-y. Yeah, so the return on that, even with the housing off, doesn't feel, it's too slow. So let's take that. So I don't know if you guys can see it, there's this plastic shim. Now, I feel like that should be inside, but when it is in there, it's not returning very nicely. So there's also a plastic spacer that goes in here, like that. So let's put that on there. There's no screws in it yet. But that is returning nicely now. It's got some JIS screws in here, and I need to buy some JIS screwdrivers, so I haven't got any at the moment. Add it to the shopping list. Right, because I didn't listen to my own advice, I had wires round the wrong way, so I've gone ahead and put that right. So that's the perch for the front brake lever. You don't need big monkey arms on these. They just need to be nipped up. It's got to be secure though. Got a new lever to put on in a second. Let's see what we've got for the other side. So as you can see at the moment, everything's just, I can still move everything about if I need to. So on the opposite side, guys, we've got a new clutch perch because the old one was cracked and bent and horrible and all of that stuff. And we've also got a new clutch cable. So we've got a nice new clutch cable to go on as well. Now what we need to do here is, don't know if you guys can see that, there's two slots here. I think I demonstrated it when I took it apart as well. So we'll get the clutch cable in. That goes through there, like that. We won't adjust anything up yet until we've got it all where we need it to be. So we've also got a second-hand switch pack to put on this side, because the old one was, one of the switches was completely broken out and missing. Haven't got any grips yet, because I think the owner said that he had some for it already, so we need to get those off him. So we should have a small loom to come up here and plug into that clutch switch, which is missing. And I've just found this. So if you guys can see this, somebody's twisted those wires together, tricking the bike into thinking that the clutch has been pulled, allowing you to start it. Okay, which is not great if it's in gear. So I'll need to find a new connector for that and wire these back in. So we'll add that to the to-do list. Hooray. Right, so we've got the levers on, new clutch cable, switch pack, that's all on, needs tightening up and finalizing. I've just been going through the wiring a little bit, running the clutch cable through, running the wiring through for this switch pack. So the next thing we're going to do is bolt the headlight and the front cowling back on, but I've got to put some indicators on. And these are the indicators that the customer has picked for the back. The front ones were also knackered, so I just bought a matching set. Not my cup of tea, but each to their own. I'm going to wire the original loom back on so that they can be plugged into the original loom. And one for this side. So that's the indicators all wired in, guys, behind me. What we need to do now is get the headlight and the new front cowling on, and we've got to get all the broken bits off of this headlight, because the headlight appears to be okay, just all the cowling is still stuck around it. I need these screws and we need the broken bits out. One bottom, there's one single screw. This don't look good. Oh, it's coming and it's moving. Is it coming undone? Yes, it is, and it has some form of weird spacer half nut spacing it out. So let's get the new headlight cowling and let's pop it in here. They line up, and then there's a couple of rubber grommets that have got to come out of this broken bit that need to go into this cowling, and that allows this cowling to locate onto the front forks. So let's get these in first, shall we? So that's that. And then for the want of something better to use, or knowing what should actually be there, so there's also a black panel that goes on the front of here, and I haven't got any hardware that is ideal for it really. And what I'm gonna do is, for the minute, I'm gonna leave it off and get some proper hardware. So let's go over to the bike and get it on, shall we? So let's plug it in first. We've got our side light and then our headlight. There's two pegs at the bottom here which those rubber grommets push over, and then that goes over the back like that. And I think I've got the correct bolts for that. He says, what size were they? Sure it was those ones. I'm sure I took the broken bits of it off of here. Suddenly dawned on me, guys, that I think there's another bit to the puzzle. There is. Right, let's get this panel back off again. Now this was new old stock that I found at a reasonable price, so it's a genuine Yamaha one. So yeah, that goes on first. Okay, and then the front mudguard comes up to here. So this has 4 bolts in it. Right, so now let's get this plugged back in. Like that. Then that goes over there. That's better. And we've got the panel to go on here, which I need to find some hardware for, but I might put some like rubber speed fasteners in there to make it a little bit neater. Splendid. Right, that's on, solid as a rock. Lovely. It's time to evaluate the situation and see what's left to do on this little Wr125. It's not that far away. The full series is linked in the description below. I'm Dino, this is Patch's Repair Shop. Let's have a look and see what we've done so far, shall we? We've done both the sprockets, front and rear, new chain, we've had the rear wheel off, and we've replaced the rear wheel bearings. We've fitted the headlight properly, we've replaced this panel here, we've replaced the front panel, we've replaced the handlebars, the clutch lever, the clutch cable, we've rebuilt the front forks with new seals, new dust covers and new oil. We repaired the frame so that the airbox fitted correctly again, and we replaced the foot peg down on that side because it was bent and cracked. And now I think it's time that we done a quick to-do list to see what we got left to do and how quickly we can get this bike to its MOT. So what we're going to be doing today, guys, is putting the front wheel back on, make it easier for me to move it around, put the rebuilt front caliper back on, bleed the brakes, change the front brake fluid, change the rear brake fluid, and give the engine a service. That's the plan for today anyway. Let's crack on, shall we? So, my old man changed the front tyre, put a new inner tube in for us. I don't have the tools to do it, so that was handy. So, before we put the wheel on, we've got to get the speedo loom back in. It's an electronic speedo, it's not a cable. There is an argument here that this may have been easier with the headlight off. Never mind. I can see the plug just. So there's a little clamp at the top here. Oh, it's just started to rain, which means we're gonna have to move everything back inside again. Fantastic. Going back together always takes longer than taking apart, especially when you're looking for new bits of hardware and all the rest of it. So we haven't got a new front mudguard. Fine Bodywork is quite expensive for this, really. I suppose it's in demand. It's that type of bike that will get damaged a bit, I suppose. Right, one front mudguard. Let's get the front wheel on, shall we? So put a bit of grease in the on the spindle and in the speedo drive. Beautiful. So let's get that front caliper on. Right, front caliper. Right, I'm going to torque those up. Let's get the flexi hose where it needs to be. So we've done a little midweek video of the caliper being rebuilt. I know it hasn't been recoated or painted or anything like that, but it is completely rebuilt with new seals, new dust seals. All the sliders are cleaned up with new rubbers, all greased up, new front brake pads, and these are new copper washers which are fighting me. Quick check in the manual. These are 30 Newton meters, so they're good. Front wheel spindle is 58 Newton meters. New dust cap. Happy days. Let's get a new cable tie around here. So before we bleed the brakes up, guys, a brake lever would be handy, and the first one they sent me was wrong. And that looks a lot more like it. The first one wasn't touching the brake light switch. So before I go ahead and change the brake fluid, if there's anything in there, I like to suck that out first so that we're dragging new brake fluid through the system and not old brake fluid through the system, which you can almost guarantee has never been changed. Yeah, there's a little bit in there, so we'll clean that out first. Bit of rag and give it a clean out. Give the inside of the sight glass a little wipe. Fill it up with new brake fluid. So I've got my brake bleeding bottle on the caliper. I'm just going to start pumping some brake fluid through. Get rid of all the old stuff that's sitting in the brake flexi hose. Don't let it run dry because you'll pull a load of air in. So I've got a brake lever now, that feels good. So what we do next is pump it up, hold it, open the bleed nipple, let the lever go all the way back to the handlebars, shut the bleed nipple, let the lever return and check it. You can do that 2 or 3 times, but this one feels perfect. That was DOT4 brake fluid. That's recommended on the cap up here. Try not to overfill the reservoir as you put it back together because it will all drip out just like this one has. Wipe it off a bit quick with water, will do it, but this is brake cleaner. Brake fluid is corrosive, so it will take any paint off eventually. Good, right, we've got a front brake, we've got no leaks down at the caliper, so that's another job done. Next up, guys, is change the engine oil and filter. Now, the oil light's flashing on the dashboard. If you know how to get the oil light out on these manually without some diagnostic equipment, let me know in the comments, that would be handy. I'm just going to assume the oil filter's in here, I don't actually know. Looks feasible though. There we go, one oil filter. It's got a little rubber seal on the back. Hopefully there's a new one. And then underneath we've got, I thought it was a 17, it's a 19. Oh, it's got little gauze in there as well. So one sump plug, there's a spring and a gauze that goes on the top. So we'll give those a good clean out. Right, while the engine oil's draining, I want to put a new clutch cable on the engine end. So we've got maximum adjustment at the lever end to make life easy down here. It's got a weird setup to hook it in that I'm probably completely in the way and you can't see it. Quite, it's awkward, I'm decorating through the letterbox again. Right, so that's on there. It's just a little steel tab that bends over that holds it in place. Seems to work. Right, so we need to leave it with a little bit of free play at the clutch lever end. So we've adjusted that up, got a nice little bit of free play at the top on the clutch lever. So that's working a treat. So the next thing we need to do is the gear lever. We didn't put it back on before because I lost it. This is a new to us second-hand one because the old one was bent and it had cracked and I couldn't find the one I ordered. And if you watched last week or the week before, can't remember, it was in the packaging with the handlebars. So I've put a new stainless bolt in there as well. Happy days. Look at that, there's a Jubilee clip missing off of there. So how is that not leaking coolant? Or more importantly, has it even got coolant in it? So we drain it and change it? I think we will. Right, let's get this back together. So I've given this spring and gauze a clean up, and I don't think we can talk about gauzes in oil ways without mentioning Steve over at TTA 850. So I'll put a link to his channel below. He's rebuilding the same Harley Davidson as me. My one had some form of petrified fossil or oldie weldy candle built up around the gauze. That is a feed to the top end of the engine on the Harley Davidson, and Steve's was nice and clean, so he was lucky. I wasn't so lucky. This one is clean, so this one goes in first, then the sump plug. Just going to pop a tiny bit of grease around the seal. You can use a bit of engine oil if you want. And this goes in first. Let's move this tray because I'm bound to drop it in there, aren't I? Torque setting on the sump plug is 12 Newton meters. There we go. I've already cleaned out where the new oil filter goes. So there's our new oil filter. Again, just going to pop a bit of grease on each side, pop that in. Let's get the bolts for it. We haven't got a new seal, so hopefully that one's going to be okay. It's nice and soft still, it wasn't leaking. Right, let's pop some oil in, shall we? Don't know how much it holds, but we've got some Motul 1040 here. Bike's leaning over on the side stand, which is going to have an effect on the oil level. It's on the dipstick. Just put a drop more in. And then we fire it up. Is that oil service or is that no oil pressure? Anyway, I think it's in neutral. Let's see if it starts, shall we? Right, we won't run it too long, neighbours. Okay, no oil pressure light on the dashboard, and I think that's an oil service light that was flashing. So that's interesting. Anyway, we can let it settle and recheck the level now, can't we? Right, I've rechecked that oil level, guys. That's all okay, got no leaks. Next thing I'm going to do is change the spark plug. Then we'll do the air filter. I think we'll call it a day then. Weather is minging, that's why we're calling it a day. Got quite a bit done, the end is in sight. So, old spark plug, new spark plug, gapped, ready to go. Ooh. Tip, if you drop a spark plug, check you haven't crushed the end, because it will cause you a world of pain. Ask me how I know. One new spark plug. Right, let's get this air filter changed. It's got a bracket over the top with two 12mm in it. It's really raining now, so I do apologise, but I just want to get this done. I've even treated myself to a set of JIS screwdrivers. It's only 15 quid for a set, and if I stop rounding off JIS screws, it's worth every penny. Oh, smashing the camera about now. So, one air filter. Here is the new air filter. That was a little bit awkward to get back in. Right, excellent. Let's call it a day and get in the dry, shall we? First job for the day, guys, is getting this little front panel on the nose cone. And we didn't have any hardware, but we do now. So got some, you know, little rubber captive nuts. Typically find these on sort of bike windscreens and everything. They're quite handy. I bought a few this time, so keep running out of hardware. Maybe these should be Allen head bolts. They're stainless, so they're not going to go rusty. Beautiful. One job done. For the life of me last week, I couldn't remember if we'd done these pinch bolts up after we torqued the axle up, and we didn't. So these are like 8 or 9 Newton meters. They don't need to be very tight, as you can see there. So the next thing my friend wants is a set of heated grips. You know, summer's coming and everything. It's important to keep your hands warm. But, you know, that's what he wants. That's what he gets. But probably could have done without wiring it all in. So compressed air on heated grips is never that great. You know, because they're solid, you know, so you can use a bit of compressed air on a normal grip. Oh, and I accidentally brushed up against the wall and broke the new clutch lever, so we've got to have a new one of them on the way now. That's fantastic. So that's one lever on. I have to tidy the wiring up. Right, so I'm just going to access the battery, which, like I said, for me is down here on the right hand side of the bike. So that exposes my battery, and I've got the plug here that goes to your control unit. So in the set you get this little bundle of joy. You've got the live and earth connection for your battery in black and red, and you've got your, there's a 5 amp fuse in there screwed into there. So we need to keep the fuse, and we need to keep that plug on the end. And it's a shame that if your battery was under the seat or on the rear of the bike or halfway up the side, then you'd probably need a lot of this loom. I, on the other hand, do not. Was I looking for a 10mm socket? No, I wasn't. Oh, good. They're not over tightened, and they shouldn't be. Right, the camera was in my way, guys, so I had to come off the camera. But like I said, every battery is going to be different unless you are fitting it to a Yamaha Wr125X. This is a 2014. So I drilled a small hole in the front of the cover. I've got some grommets, so I'm just going to pop a grommet through there, and it's allowed me just to plug the power in there. And then we're just going to tidy up the wiring here, make sure you've got enough slack so that the handlebars can move to their full extent without pulling on anything, and that they're not in the way of the headstock, so they're not going to get caught up. So I'm just going to pop a bit of tape or something around this to keep it protected, and then cable tie this up to the loom. So that's it, guys, job done. So we've got the little unit here, see that working, low heat, high heat. We've still got this here to tidy up because I'm waiting on some panels for this particular bike, so we can see where we can tidy these up neatly. So just again, make sure your wiring is cable tied up neatly, your throttle can move to its full extent nice and easily, and that the handlebars move to their stops without any wiring getting caught up. So pretty simple job to do at home, guys. Right, next little job to cross off the list. Missing Jubilee clip. Now I know that you shouldn't open them up like this, but it's full of coolant. The coolant's good. I don't want to split the system. So I've opened the Jubilee clip up. Splendid, or lovely jubbly clip, should I say. Right, what's next, guys, is this disgusting mess. So this is the rear tail, not so tidy. So let's get a few of these old bits off. So indicators are all snapped and broken. So they can all come off. Where's my snips? Let's get rid of this wiring. So I'm pretty sure that rear light is a no-go. Ah, good old indicator tape. An indicator that the indicator is broken, indicating that it needs a new one. Lots of things for the bin here. Right, a pile to be filed under B1N and a bracket left over. Right, where's these rear lights? Right, so we've got a pair of new indicators supplied by the customer to match the front ones. That's easy enough. And then I had this rear light, but they ain't going to do it for us because it mounts top or bottom and not like that. So that's a shame because that looks like the better of the two. Or we've got this one, which is mounted to this, that has no way of mounting a number plate to it. The fittings aren't very big though. Let's whip it out of here and see if it will work. It's got a captive nut in the plastic. Just trying to save a bit of money, basically. There's a lot of money in parts gone into this little Yamaha for my friend. Great. There we go. Made a meal of that one. Okay, let's see if we can mark this up and drill it out. There's already a little hole here which is literally in the perfect place for the loom to go through. So let's cover the camera with a drill and drill it out. See if that will work for us. Yeah, touch bigger. Perfect. Right, can we get a couple of centre punches in here? See how blunt this drill bit is. Lovely. That's going to work. Let me go clean it. Some of these drills and bits away. So we've had a bit of a scrub up on the actual bracket. So let's see if this rear light will fit. So this little circuit board was just glued into place, so we will do the same thing. Let's make sure that grommet's in there. Right, clever me, forgot to press record. So hot glue gun, put the circuit board back inside the new light where we had it apart, and then the screws go through the light out the back, and we got the little nuts and we got the grommet there for our loom and everything. So that's a new rear light on. Happy days. So the next thing we'll do is we'll pop these new indicators on, and then I'll show you the snake's nest of wiring we've got on the bike for this lot. Right, lovely. So I don't want any of these connectors anymore. So they can go. Same with these ones. Right. The only heat shrink I've got that's going to be anywhere close to being the right size is red, so that will have to do. No, rubber boot can go on afterwards. So our next trick is this little bundle of joy. It was already cut apart when I got it. Nothing was ever plugged into that one. So I just want to know what's right, what's left on the indicators, and what have we got on these three, which is for the rear light. So I've used the ground of the bike to begin with, and I've got 12.8 volts in the battery. So when I turn it on, I should get side lights straight away. So yeah, we got battery voltage there. Yep, so that's our side light and our number plate lights. Ooh. And then on this one here, that should be our brake light. Nothing on the front one. Yeah, so the rear one, let me try and hold that there, maybe you guys can see it. Just if I press the rear brake, we get battery voltage. So green and yellow is brake lights, brown is our side lights, black is our ground. Let's check our indicators. So That's left hand side indicator. You get the multimeter where you guys can see it maybe. So if you guys can see that line at the bottom flashing just, so that is the left hand indicator is black. Let's just check the right hand side one. Yeah, I know you guys can't see it, but that's live and earth for left and right hand side indicators, earth for the rear light, side light for the rear light, and rear brake light only on that one. So I'm just exposing the indicator wires here. Somebody's already been here because the outer conduit has already been cut in half. So we are going to get rid of those because we don't have the correct connectors for them to go back on. Oh, that'll be the phone. So I know these aren't insulated ones, but I've got some heat shrink to put over them, and it's all I've got, and I just want to get it done. Need to have a good sort out of all of my consumables and hardware, and I've got a new rack to put up and a label machine, so I just need to get it all up and get it stocked up properly. Right, always use ratchet style crimps, and if you can't hang on the crimps, they ain't tight enough. Right, so that's left hand side. Right, now I'm wondering if this lone plug that wasn't being used is for a number plate light. And if it's in ignition live, that's exactly what it will be used for. Yeah, that's an ignition live. So we'll use that for our number plate lights, which haven't actually arrived yet. Right, so we're just gonna bolt this hanger back on, and guess what? The new loom isn't long enough. Happy to show you my mistakes as well. So I'm gonna have to extend it. Right. So I'm going to make a couple of looms back up again, and I'll bring you back in, guys, okay? Right, I know it doesn't look very pretty at the moment, and I haven't done any of the heat shrinks or routed it correctly, but I just extended the wiring off camera. Let's just make sure that it's working. So one rear indicator, can you see that? No, you can't. Let me reposition you a little bit. So one rear indicator, that's the other rear indicator, so they're working. We've got no rear side light and no brake light. So what have we done or not done there then? Right, so that's the earth we used. So we know the indicators are okay. Oh, great. Right. Let's find another. That's good, isn't it? Look at that. So I know before that I had a live on that one. Yeah, that might be part of the problem. Look, somebody else's crimps. You cannot hang on, apparently. Okay. Back in a minute. Off camera, I've gone ahead and rectified the wiring problem. So we've now got tail light, number plate lights, rear indicators. The wiring's tidied up to an extent, probably about as good as it's ever going to get. I am missing, I've got a rear brake light, but I'm missing a front brake light. It appears to be a dodgy connection. So I'm Dino, this is Patch's Repair Shop. Let's go and whip the tank off, shall we? So I'm going to start by whipping the tank off. It's a 4mm Allen key at the front. And the reason I'm whipping the tank off is because there's a loom running underneath it. I can see a couple of nasty bits, and the front brake light switch connection is there as well. So we've got 4mm Allen key at the front, two 10mm at the back. And we're getting the bike done in this video, guys. We're getting it completed. It's going to be finished today and ready to go for its MOT. So stick around to the end to see the finished product. So we've got one plug on the bottom and one fuel hose. So that's the fuel tank off. That's nice and easy. This is the loom that we want to get to. I can see that something nasty's happened in there, so they've just cut those wires off for whatever reason. This is the plug for my front brake light switch, and you guys are not going to be able to see it. Try zooming in a little bit, maybe slightly better. So it's just really corroded, and I'm hoping that that's all my problem is. So let's clean it up, shall we? Nothing. Right, so got the multimeter set up just on a continuity test, and I've got the switch out, which I don't know if you guys can see. Let me move around a little bit, and it is, I've pulled the switch out, pulled the boot back, and it is green. It's just completely oxidized inside. The sun's too bright and you lot can't see that, can you? Let me try and adjust this a bit better. So here's the switch, and it is completely oxidized and green inside now. You see, that's working now. So that would be me pulling the front brake lever. When I let go of the front brake lever, the noise stops. Let it out again, nothing. So it's just gone corroded inside. So let's have a little go and see if I can clean it up. Right, so I managed to get it apart. And there's our problem. You see where it's all green and oxidized. So we've got the little sort of brass plunger in the middle. So we've got that on the bench already, and I've already cleaned that up. So I'm just going to hit this with a bit of Scotch Brite and see if it will clean up. So we're all cleaned back up, guys, back together, and it's working a treat now. And it's probably a real good opportunity just to quickly explain very, very simply what is going on here. So this little outer housing pushes into the front brake lever perch, and when the little bronze bit that you can see here is poking out, that means I've pulled the brake lever in, i.e. I'm braking, and when I let go, the lever pushes the end on the end of this brass plunger. From an electronics point of view, or electrically, can't get my words out. How do I explain that? So this is how the wiring works. That's what we'll say. If I put my finger over the end of the plunger, i.e. I'm not touching the front brake lever, switch my multimeter to ohms resistance, but we'll do a simple continuity test with a beep. As soon as I pull the front brake lever and let go again. So when I'm braking, I complete the circuit, which then operates the rear brake light, and when I let go of the lever, the beeping stops again, the brake light goes out, the circuit is broken. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Let's put it back together, shall we? Tank's priming, so let's get the bolts back in. What have we done with them? It's an absolutely stunning day for the beginning of March. But also, how is it already March? Right, one tank back on. I think we're in a position now to actually put some panels back on this bike and hide all of this somewhere. Right, so it's time to start getting some plastics back on, guys. This centre bit is an original bit, it's all I had, and then these two outer bits are new old stock from Yamaha, and they just screw in here. Luckily the screws are in there with a bit of broken plastic. So we got this, and this fits over the fuel tank, and then it's got the radiator guard this side, and this covers the battery on that side. So you got to take the fuel cap off to do it, and then it quite simply pops over the top like that. And then I should have some new hardware for all of this because I've ordered that, but I did want to try and hide some of this heated grip wiring loom under there if I can. But also we got these side trims. These have got broken elements of the old one of these on, so they need unscrewing from the inside, and then before this goes on we'll have to screw these from the back on the side from the inside, if that makes sense. So let's whip that off and let's get them screwed into place first, shall we? Right, so here we are, we've got the side bits bolted in. These are the new bits. This bit we had, this bit, they're a bit scratched up, but we've got them, and we've got a load of new hardware that I've dug out. So let's get that bolted on. So next piece, guys, is the new rear mudguard, which goes on here. I've got some new clips for here. Get rid of that. Wonder what's meant to go on here. Is there another panel? Because I haven't got anything. Let me guys know in the comments if you know. So onto there. I have to have a look at some Google pictures, I think. Right, next job is to pop the seat back on. Just hunting around the garage now, seeing what I've got kicking around that will finish a few of these bits off. Some bar ends on that side. One that side. There's overspray on this engine. It's been bugging me. I want to see if I can get rid of it. Somebody's obviously tried to paint something, probably the exhaust. Another little job, guys, is this exhaust that somebody's put on. Really hoping that's gonna come undone. Didn't feel like it. It's changed my socket. Two things here that have been bugging me. There's a little aluminium spacer there. I'm sure that is in the wrong place. because A, it's not holding the exhaust tight, and B, the exhaust needs to be further out this way. So I think this spacer should be behind it, and that should pull the whole exhaust out to a better position. But also, this little rubber sleeve is knackered. I haven't got a new one, but I was just going to move it round so it was in the bit that you can see is in a better position, if that makes sense. Actually, before I put that on, I'm going to clean a few of these bits up. Yeah, there's a technical term for this rubber. It's knackered. Right, it's slightly better. That's how it should be. It's holding it tight now anyway. Right guys, so after a little spin around the block, just to check clutch adjustment, come back, I've checked the chain adjustment, recheck the oil level, coolant level, we're all good. I think that's pretty much a wrap for this series, to be honest with you. I've got to order a couple of side panels up, probably won't do a video on putting those on. I need to change front side light bulb, that's out, and I've got to change the clutch lever quickly again because the end got knocked off it, unfortunately. Apart from that, yeah, she's far from perfect, but she's ready to go for an MOT. So mechanically sound, bit loud, don't know how the exhaust is going to get on. Might be a video with me putting another exhaust on it. But apart from that, she's done. She definitely looks a million times better. So if you've enjoyed this series, guys, click one of the videos at the end. We've done a Triumph, we've got the Ducati, we've got the Harley video. So yeah, smash that subscribe button, drop us a comment, hit like. I'll see you next week. We'll be back on the Harley Davidson. I'm Dino, and that's Patch's Repair Shop. See you later, guys.